A very good morning to everyone, and thanks so much for joining us today. Big welcome to anyone that's joining us for the first time, and hi again to those who were able to attend the first episode where we focused on leave entitlement policies just a few weeks ago. If you missed the first episode, fear not, the webinar was recorded and has been uploaded to YouTube. The link to this episode can be found in the chat box with the welcome message. My name is Jamie, and I'm joined today by Sherlyn, who will be co-hosting with me, as well as Brandon and Kylie from SimplePay's training team, who will be presenting on today's topic. So today's session will be focusing on recording leave, as well as creating and editing leave types. And we will also have a look at the leave activity screen as part of our broader series covering all things related to leave. So just before we get started and while we wait for a few more participants to join, Sherlyn and I are just going to spend some time explaining how things will work today. But just can I see that everyone can see and hear me? Can we use an emoji or raise a hand just so that I can see that everyone can see and hear me? Okay, cool. I do see some coming through. Fantastic. If anyone is struggling to see or hear me, please let either Sherlyn or I know using the chat feature, and then we will help troubleshoot with you. So the goal of today's webinar is to be as interactive and engaging as possible. So you'll notice that there will be a few polls that we'll make use of during the session, and they'll pop up on your screen periodically. Please participate, even if you're not sure of the answer. I promise who said what is completely confidential. We would also like to encourage as many questions as possible. So please make use of the Q&A functionality throughout the session. All participants will be muted for the first part of the session, and questions will only be answered at the end of the session, at which stage and after the recording has been ended, participants may choose to speak if they would like to.
Thanks, Jamie, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. Sherlyn here. I just wanted to say a big thank you to those of you who are joining us for the second time. And if this is the first SimplePay webinar that you're attending, a very warm welcome to you. So before we start, I thought it'd be insightful to share with everyone why we decided to launch a webinar series in the first place. It was after receiving a lot of feedback from our clients that made us wonder how we could offer additional support in regards to bridging any learning gaps some clients may have, and also to ensure your onboarding process with SimplePay becomes even simpler than it already is. So with the launch of the webinar series, we're hopeful it will help everyone in attendance to master SimplePay. Okay, so with all that said and done, as we start the session, please note that we will be recording the webinar, with the recording due to be uploaded onto our website as a training resource for customers. All identities will be projected, and participant webcams will also be disabled throughout the session. Once the session has ended and we have wrapped up the time spent on Q&A, we've again prepared a survey. So do take advantage of the survey and send through any and all feedback of your experience during the webinar. Needless to say, we really appreciate everyone including as much information as possible so that we will be able to establish what has worked well and implement any improvements to future episodes. All right, so to start, we'd like to share with you what to expect in terms of the poll questions that will be coming through. Do take a look at your screen as we cast our very first poll. And as everyone take some time to submit their answers, I will be handing the time over to Kylie and Brandon as they take you through all things related to the recording of leave, whilst also showing you how to create and edit leave types in the system.
Thanks, Sherlyn and Jamie. Welcome again, everyone. It's really exciting to have you here for the second episode. So as you'll see, there's a poll in front of your screen. All you need to do is check one of the answers. As we said, it's completely anonymous, so don't stress about that. So this one's about editing leave, and we'll just give you a few minutes or seconds to fill that in, and then we'll go through the answers. Alrighty, so leave admins and account owners have the ability to restrict employees from requesting leave if they do not have the prescribed amount of days. Is that true? false, the functionality doesn't exist, or only account owners have this permission. So most people say, most of the responses say that it's true. We have a small percentage that said false, the functionality does not exist. So now, Brandon, I'm wondering if you could share your screen and take us through the answer before getting started with taking us through the system.
Sure, not a problem. Okay, so let me quickly share my screen. Okay, so you should be able to see my company over here, which is Peter Pan. And I'm actually going to sort of hold off on the answer for now. I will say it is true, but I will elaborate on that as we sort of dive into creating a new leave type. So I think what we should do is create a leave type, have a look at some of the leave settings that you can configure. And then once we've had a look at configuring those settings for a new leave type, we can then also have a look at how you would edit those settings for an existing leave type. Sound good?
Yeah, that sounds great. Why don't you take us through how to configure those settings?
Okay, so anytime that you are wanting to configure something on SimplePay, we want to go to settings. And in this instance, we are talking about leave. So we're going to go to the leave tab. And here you'll see a list of the default leave types that SimplePay has added to the system. And what we've done is we've looked at the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, so the BCEA, and we've looked at the leave types that they prescribe, and we've used that in order to create these default leave types on the system. However, if you have a leave type that you would like to add to the system, you are able to do that. So depending on the needs for your business, you are able to do that by simply clicking on Add a New Leave Type. Now, just before I do that, I would like to just clarify something that, remember, we covered entitlement policies in the previous webinar, and remember that an entitlement policy is different to a leave type. So if you've got some employees that get 15 days of annual leave and some employees that get 20 days of annual leave, these are not different leave types. These are different entitlement policies. A leave type is something like annual leave, sick leave, family responsibility leave, unpaid leave, etc. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a new leave type. What leave type would you like to create, Kylie?
I think let's create study leave because I want some study leave for the company.
Sure, not a problem. Okay, so we're going to get taken to this page, which is the page where we will configure our settings for this leave type. And the first field allows us to enter the name of this leave type. And when you complete this name, you only need to put in the word study. And you don't actually have to put leave because we will auto-populate that for you. We will auto-fill that in. So you don't want to have study leave. So just leave it as study. And then the next field allows you to specify what is the cycle length. So how long is each of these cycles? Now, by default, most leave types are 12 months in length, except for sick leave, which is 36 months in length. But you might have an instance where you have a leave type that you maybe want to run in 6-month cycles or 4-month cycles. It's completely dependent on your business and your policy. The next field then allows you to specify when is the cycle start date. So in other words, when does the cycle run from and until? So does it run from an employee's appointment date and then run 12 months from that appointment date? So in other words, if someone was appointed on the 1st of May, does it run from the 1st of May until the 30th of April, 1st of May until the 30th of April, 1st of May until the 30th of April? Or is the cycle, does it follow some other cycle start date? So maybe you wanted to run for a calendar year, so from the 1st of January till the end of December. Or maybe you want to create a completely custom cycle start date, so maybe you want to have it run from July to June. So what would you like for study leave, Kylie?
For study leave, let's start it at the 1st of January.
Okay.
So then they can get 1st of January till the end of December, and then it can start the new cycle.
Okay, that makes sense because with institutions, so tertiary institutions, their calendars usually run according to a calendar year. So it makes sense then to assign the study leave based on the calendar year.
Yeah.
Okay, the next field, or this checkbox over here, allows you to specify whether this leave is unpaid leave or not. And remember, this is going to have an impact on your payslips. So if you say that this is unpaid leave and you record unpaid leave for this employee, so you record study leave, it's then going to deduct money off their salary. So it's going to make a deduction from their salary and reduce their income. Okay, so study leave generally, well, it's dependent on the company, but a lot of companies, when they offer study leave, they want it to be an incentive to upskill, so they want it to be paid leave generally. So I think we can leave this unticked.
Leave that blank.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. The next checkbox is whether you want to show this leave on payslips. So by default, SimplePay shows all annual leave on payslips, and we don't show any of the other leave types on payslips. But this, again, is completely up to you and what you want your employees to see. So if you want your employees to see their study leave balance on their payslips, then you simply click on this checkbox over here.
Yeah, I think we should leave that checked because it's important for people to know how many days of leave they can, study leave that they can take. Make sure they pass their exams.
Sure, not a problem. Okay, so the next one is set minimum balance rule. Now, this checkbox basically allows you to prevent employees from going into the negative with their leave balance or going too far into the negative. So let's say that you set up this entitlement policy to be 3 days of leave, so 3 days of study leave. You don't want your employees then to make a leave request that is 4 days of study leave, right? Because that is now more than what they're actually entitled to. So if we click the set minimum balance rule, we then have the option to tell the system what is the minimum balance that we want. If we set it as 0, then we're saying that employees cannot go into the negative. So in other words, 0 is the benchmark, right? If you've got 3 days of leave, you can only take 3 days of leave. You can't take more than that. However, we can also set this as a negative figure. So if we had to set it as -1, we would then be telling the system, okay, they can go into the negative, but only 1 day into the negative. So in other words, you're stopping them from going too far into the negative, but they are allowed to go slightly over their entitlement that you give them. Okay, and this is not really applicable to something like study leave, where you would generally give those days upfront. It's more applicable to leave types that accrue over time, where you say, okay, they can go into the negative because next month they're going to accrue some more leave, so it will then offset itself. But for study leave, like I said,
oh,
yeah,
sorry, yes. I was just gonna say, yeah, okay, you could.
Okay. Zoom. So I was just going to say that, I was just going to basically summarize that and say that generally with study leave, you do give it upfront, the 3 days or the 5 days or whatever it might be. So this generally, you would want this to be 0 rather than -1.
Yeah, because we probably know exactly how many days of study leave. I'm sure we'll go through editing that, but just as a query, so for annual leave, is that minimum balance automatically set to 0?
So it's not. So for annual leave, the minimum balance rule is not set automatically. So if you sign up to SimplePay and you don't go and configure these settings, the system will allow employees to go into the negative. So if you would like to prevent that, then you will have to go and set the minimum balance rule. And I'm going to show you how to do that in a moment.
Awesome.
Okay, the next field over here is, this says allow rule override. So you've set this minimum balance rule saying that employees cannot go into the negative. Right. But maybe there's certain instances where they need to go into the negative. So who can then override this rule? Now, if you say that it's not allowed, then no one can override this rule. It can never go into the negative. Or you might say admins and leave admins can allow this. So in other words, they can record leave that will then go into the negative. Or you might say approvers, admins, and leave admins can potentially override this, which then means they will get the warning message to say that, okay, it's going into the negative and there is a minimum balance rule, but then they do have the option then to override it.
Brandon,
yes.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
So we're talking about admins and leave admins and approvers. I'm just wondering if you can maybe elaborate on the user permissions and what that actually means.
Okay, sure. I'll do that very briefly. So we can maybe do a whole session on, adding users in the future. But for now, there is actually a help page that you are able to go to. So if you go to the SimplePay help page, so simplepay.co.za and /help, You can then either type in the search bar, you can look for roles, or you can go to General Setup, Managing Users, and then Roles. And this help page then details all the various roles that we have and what they're able to do. So as just a general introduction quickly, admin has sort of full access to the system. Leave admin has access to anything that's leave related, but they can't see anything that's of a financial nature. And approvers you would use for self-service in order to approve certain requests.
Well, thanks for that.
Okay, so let's say that we're not going to allow anyone to override this. And then the last checkbox, the last checkbox is saying that we want to hide the balances in self-service. And we're going to have a future episode in our webinar series that's going to focus purely on self-service because it's such a great feature. So when we do that, we'll actually focus a little bit more on this checkbox.
Cool.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save. So now when I go ahead and save, you'll see that it's automatically taking me to the page for creating an entitlement policy. And the system is trying to be intuitive and saying, okay, there's a new leave type, but the leave type needs to have some kind of entitlement. And I'm not going to go through this because we covered this extensively in the last webinar. So I'm just going to go ahead and save the 0 policy, and there you will be able to create additional policies if you need.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So we talked about editing. I don't know if this is what you were going to go through next, but we also talked about editing this.
Yes.
Could you show us how?
So everything that we've set up now, everything that we've configured, you'll see is summarized over here at the top. And if you want to go ahead and edit the details, you simply click on Edit Details. But how do you get to this page, you may be wondering? So in order to get to this page, you just go to Settings and then Leave. And you're going to click on View next
there it
to.
Is.
Yes, you'll see there's the new leave type that we created. So you can click on View next to any of the leave types. So we can, for example, click on View next to Annual. And there you'll see, oh, okay, these are the settings for annual leave. And if I want to go ahead and edit those details, I can then go and do so. And you'll see, like I said, the set minimum balance rule is unchecked by default, and it shows on payslips by default.
Brilliant.
So you can go ahead and if you want to now, for example, go and show sick leave on payslips, you can go to View, Edit Details, click on Show on Payslips, and then save it.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Brandon.
No problem.
I think we should have another poll.
Sounds good.
Cool. So if you look at your screens, you will see a poll pop up on recording leave. So we want to know how many ways are there to capture leave if you are a leave admin. 1, 2, 4, 3. So we'll give you a few seconds / a minute to fill that in, and then we will take you through the answers.
Sounds good.
Cool. Okay. I can't vote, but I want to get the answer right. But it won't let me. Okay, so let's end the poll and get your answers. All right, so we have, most people have said that there are 3 ways that we're able to capture leave if we're a leave admin. But we do have some people that think that there are, or have answered that there are 2 ways, and a small group that say that there's 1 way to record leave if you're a leave admin. So Brandon, I'm hoping you can answer this question and then actually take us through how to record leave, if you would.
Sure. No problem. So the key part of this question was they asked about leave admin specifically. So if we look at the system as a whole, there's actually 3 ways that leave can make its way onto the system or be recorded or captured. So the 3 ways are that we can record it individually from an employee's profile. The second way is that we can record it in bulk for our employees. And the third way is that an employee can make a leave request and then that can be approved. However, there's different roles that are required in order to do these. So if we want to record leave individually or we want to record it in bulk, you need to be an admin or a leave admin in order to do that. If you want to the leave to be captured via self-service, in that instance, you would have to be added as an approver to the system in order to approve the leave so that it gets recorded on the system. So the answer to this question is actually that there are two ways. All right, so there's two ways for a leave admin. They can do it individually from an employee's profile as well as in bulk.
Awesome. Could we go through then how to set up, or rather how to record leave? Let's start individually, and then we can work our way up.
Sure. So in order to record leave individually, you have to go to an employee's profile. So you can do that by typing in the employee's name or the employee's number in the employee search bar, or you can simply go to employees and then select the employee that you want to record leave for. Who would you like to record leave for?
Wendy, darling. She needs some time off.
Okay, sure, not a problem. She's been very busy.
She has been, yeah, you're right.
Okay, so we're now on Wendy's profile. And when we're on her profile, you'll see her payroll information. Now, remember, if you are a leave admin only, you won't see this payroll tab. You won't see this edit info tab. You won't have access to this because you cannot see payroll information or financial information. And the one that we want to go to is we wanted to go to leave. So if we click on leave and we go to record taken, this is where we are able to record our leave for our employee.
Perfect.
The top part of the screen has got a calendar, and then the bottom part of the screen has got two boxes. The first box is the annual leave rate per hour. Now this will only show for admin users. It won't show for leave admin users because remember, leave admins don't get to see financial information. And then we've got what the current leave balances are for this employee. So for each of the leave types, and again, you'll see study leave has been added there. Whoops, over there. And yes, so these are the current leave types that help you then make an informed decision when you are going to go ahead and record leave.
Cool. So I'm looking at a calendar, right?
Yes.
But I'm wondering, how am I going to record the leave?
Okay, that's a good question. So some people come in and they go, okay, but there's nothing I can actually do here. All I can do is look at a calendar.
Yeah.
So the trick is you actually have to click on the calendar, and you can potentially click anywhere. But what I always recommend is that you start by entering the first day of leave that the employee is taking. So click on the first day. So when are they going to be taking leave?
Let's give them a nice long weekend. Let's give them, they want to take it on the 12th.
Okay.
So if you can click 12 and then click 15.
Okay, so 12 to the 15th.
Yes.
Okay, good. So we're going to start by clicking on 12. And then as soon as I click on that, you'll see that this pops up on the right-hand side. And the first thing that it asks you is, what is the leave type? Now, it does default to annual leave because this is the leave that you're generally going to be recording most commonly. And then you'll see that there's a from and a to field. Now, the reason I said enter the 12th is because then that populates automatically for you. So you don't have to then go and complete that field at all. You only have to complete the to field. So let's go from the 12th until the 15th. Now you'll see this message in red, and what people normally do is they go, oh my word, I've got this error that's come up. No, we are trying to help you. We're trying to make the system as intuitive as possible. And you'll see here that it's telling us that 2 dates were excluded because they were either holiday or weekend days. And you can see that actually by looking at the calendar, because the calendar is grayed out. Yes, exactly. It's grayed out all of the days that are not working days. Now, this depends depends on the employee's setup. So according to the regular hours for that employee. So it doesn't mean that every employee is going to have Saturday and Sunday grayed out. It's dependent on what days you have set up as their working days.
Cool.
Okay, then we have the option to make a partial day. So if any of these days were not a full day, so maybe they left Friday at 12 o'clock, for example, so they actually came in and worked in the morning, then in that instance, we would select partial for the 12th, and you can then enter the number of hours that they take in leave for. Remember, this is the number of hours of leave, not the number of hours that they worked. So just do do be careful of that. Okay, and then we can go ahead and confirm.
Warning.
Yes, so now you'll see a warning, and this again, this is a good thing. The system is telling you, it's trying to help you realize certain things, and in this instance, it's telling you that this is going to result in a negative leave balance. On the right-hand side, you'll actually see the projected leave balances. So the system is at the bottom showing you what the current leave balances are, and over here, it's going to show you what are the projected leave balances once each of these days of leave are recorded. So once we take leave on the 12th, the balance at the end of day on the 12th will be 0. If they take leave on the 15th, the balance is then going to be 0.88, minus 0.88. Okay, so another thing I also want to point out to you is that when we get this pending changes block, some people think, okay, cool, I have to go ahead and save, and then I have to go back to the employee, go back to leave in order to go and record extra leave. That is not true. You can actually go and record it immediately before clicking save. So if I wanted to go and record further leave, let's say later in the month, so maybe on like the 30th, okay, and let's say in this instance, I want to go and record, shall we say, unpaid leave.
Sure.
Okay, and I go ahead and confirm. You'll now see that it's added it to this pending changes block. So it says there's 2 annual leave days, of which 1.5 are actually working days, and then 1 unpaid leave day, which is a full working day.
Brandon, quick question.
Yeah.
Can I, on the screen, can I record leave that was taken in the past?
Absolutely. So if you want to go and record leave that happened in October or September, you can go ahead and do that. So let me quickly show you. You can go ahead and add it. The one thing you do need to be careful of, though, is if you are recording unpaid leave, so if it's some kind of leave type that is unpaid, if those payslips are finalized, then that unpaid leave is going to appear on the current draft payslip. So if you are recording leave in October, unpaid leave, but October's payslip is finalized, then the system is trying to help you, right? So the system is saying, okay, we recognize that you've already paid this employee in October, but they took unpaid leave, so we now need to move that unpaid leave to November. So it is going to then appear on the November payslip if that payslip is not yet finalized.
Cool. Sounds
Okay.
good.
And then the other thing I wanted to just indicate to you here is there is this details link over here, which if you click, it will show you a breakdown of all of the leave days that you are recording before you go ahead and click save. All right, shall we go ahead and save?
Oh yeah, saving, very important. Seriously, don't forget to click save.
All right, so when you click save, you'll be automatically taken to the leave activity page. And this is why I said it's nice to be able to, before you click save, to go and record all of the leave that you want, because otherwise it's going to take you to this page and then you're going to have to go back. And the reason why we take you to this page is because when you record the leave, you want to see, okay, how is it actually impacting this cycle and what has actually happened this cycle? So this leave activity page shows you a breakdown of the various leave types. So you'll see there I've got annual leave, sick leave, family responsibility, unpaid, and study, as well as a arrow that allows you to expand and contract this. We can then also go forwards and backwards using the arrows to get to the leave cycle that we want, but it will default to the current cycle. And then on this page, you'll see all of the movement that is happening. So you'll see the entitlement, the movement, and then the balance for the employee.
Could you, I don't know if you're going to, could you explain what that actually means?
Okay, so the movement is all of the leave days that are being taken. The entitlement is all of the leave days that have accrued to this employee from the beginning of the leave cycle. So from the beginning of the current leave cycle until this particular date. So from the beginning of the leave cycle, which you can see over here is the 1st of November, right? So that's the beginning of the leave cycle up until the 12th of November. We had an entitlement of 0.5. And then your balance is the balance that you're getting, taking into account the entitlement, as well as the entitlement from previous cycles that might have carried over. So maybe you had a balance from a previous cycle that you didn't use and you've set it up, you've configured your leave settings so that leave can carry over, then it would be included in this balance. And this balance also includes the movement. So you'll see in this instance, my entitlement is 0.5, my movement is 0.5, so my balance is 0. So there's actually no leave that was carried over from the previous cycle that's included in this. So we just take it into account the entitlement and the movement, and then that gives us a balance of 0.
Perfect.
All right, and that is recording leave individually.
Sounds great. So the next we'll look at is reporting leave in bulk. Could you take us through how to do that?
Sure, not a problem. So to record leave in bulk, we don't want to be on an employee's profile anymore. So we don't want to be on an individual's employee's profile. So we're going to go to employees, and instead of clicking on their profile, on the right-hand side here, you'll see this option that says bulk actions.
Cool.
And when we click on bulk actions, we get a whole bunch of different things that we can do in bulk. And what we want to focus on is the leave section. And in particular, we want to look at the leave dates import. That allows us to record leave in bulk.
Cool. Now,
this is a two-step process. So the first step in the process is to export your leave dates file. And then you're going to go and populate that file and save it. And then the second step on the system is then to upload it. So there's actually a few steps, right? So you want to download the file, complete the file, save the file, and then upload it, but 2 steps on the actual system. So let's go ahead and do step 1, which is to download the file. At the top of the screen, you'll see that we give you some filters, and this allows you to narrow that list down. So maybe you only wanted to record leave for, let's say, management, or maybe you're only wanting to record leave for a particular department, so a marketing department. So you can use then the pay points option to do that. I don't have any particular pay points in this company, but if you did, you would be able to filter that. And then you're going to enter the date range that you want to appear on the Excel sheet. Now we do limit this. We limit this to 100 days. And the reason we do that is because each day is going to have its own column in the Excel sheet. So if we had allowed you to do more than 100 days, that sheet is going to go on forever and ever and ever, and that's just going to confuse you, and it's going to cause chaos. So we're trying to help you here. Yeah, limit it to 100. So what would you like to do? What would you like your date range to be here?
I'm comfortable with just looking at 1 month. I think
okay.
30 to 31 days is enough to record leave.
Perfect. Okay, so then let's focus on the 1st of November until the end of November, and I'm going to export that. Okay, you'll see my file has downloaded. I'm going to click, and it's just gone to my other screen, so let me move it across.
And that's going to open in Excel, but I trust that'll work for Google Sheets and everything.
Yes, so you can use it in other spreadsheets. So if you want to use Google Sheets, you can. If you've got, I know there's Open Office and there's a few other like LibreOffice that you could also potentially use. I can't vouch for how good those programs are. I do know that Excel does work best. I know Google Docs also works quite well. But yeah, I'm sure they do work with the others as well. Okay, so now you've got your Excel sheet, and you'll see that in your Excel sheet, you've got the names of your employees, you've got the numbers, the employee numbers, and then you've got a column for each day in the date range that you selected. You'll see that some of the days are grayed out. And why do you think that is?
I'm assuming because we've just recorded leave individually.
Okay, yes, so that's one of the reasons. So we've got some leave that we've recorded, but then we've also grayed out the days that are not working days, because remember, you can't record leave on a day that you're not meant to actually work.
That makes sense.
So now what you can do is you can find the day that you want to record leave for. So let's say that the company is actually closing for all employees on, let's say, the 25th.
Cool.
So we simply click on that first cell, and you'll then get a drop-down menu that allows you to select the leave type. So let's say that we are forcing our employees. That sounds harsh. We are.
Yeah, that sounds very harsh. It's a company enrichment day.
Yes. So we encourage our employees to take annual leave on that day. And now what you can do is once you've selected that, you can use Excel's functionality to drag this down for all of your employees. So there you can do it quite quickly. If you wanted to do this for, let's say, 2 or 3 days, you could also use Excel's functionality to drag it across. So that's a very quick way of ensuring that you capture leave. Okay, we're then going to save this. And once I've saved this, I'm now going to go back to my system, and I'm now going to upload the file that I have just saved. All right, so it's in my downloads folder. Do remember that when you save it, you want to make sure you know where you've saved it to. By default with Windows computers, it does go to your downloads folder, but it could be in various other places. Okay, and once we've gone and uploaded that file again, we then simply click on upload. And now you'll be given a summary. So this summary tells you what's actually happening over here. So you'll see that we've previously recorded annual leave. And the reason you know it's previously done is because it's grayed out. And in this particular sheet, we've used this Excel sheet to record new annual leave. And this is shown with the text in black. All right, we do have a little warning over here as well. So this is also, again, there to help you. So we're saying, okay, this will result in a negative balance for annual leave. So again, the system's trying to be intuitive and help you out and say, okay, you've gone and done this in bulk, but it is going to result in a negative leave balance.
Cool.
This summary is not yet recorded on the system. It will only be final when you
Click save.
100%. Okay, so don't forget to do that, because if you just come to the screen and then you navigate away from it, it's not going to save. All right, so the last thing that we want to do is go ahead and save.
Save. Brilliant. Cool, and now we can see that we can have the other view of everything that we recorded.
Absolutely. So now if you go there, you'll see, because we've saved it, it's now gone and graded out. And now we know, okay, cool, that's not a new leave day that we're recording. It's already on the system.
Cool. Thanks, Brandon. Now that we've looked at creating the leave types and recording individually and in bulk, I think it's time for one last poll. So if you look at your screens, which you're already looking at, we're asking you about capturing leave in bulk. So the leave dates import function allows you to capture leave using a pre-populated spreadsheet. And it's a 50-50 choice here. So yes or no. So we'll just give you a few brief moments to fill that in, and then we'll take you through the results. Cool. All right, so your answers are going to be coming through shortly. We're going to end the poll. And a resounding yes, 100% say that this is true.
That's good. Yes, it is true. So do remember that we do pre-populate that spreadsheet. So we pre-populated with any of the leave days that you have recorded previously. We also pre-populated with your employees' names as well as their numbers, depending on how you use the filters in order to do that. If your sheet is not pre-populated, then it could just be that you have filtered something incorrectly, or maybe you haven't recorded that leave previously that maybe you thought you had recorded. So then you just need to go and check on that.
Perfect.
Right.
Thanks, Brandon. And thanks everyone for your participation in the polls.
Yes.